After 20 years of coaching chess, one moment always makes me smile. When a student calls me and says, Igor, could you help me prepare for a tournament? I say, sure, when is it? And they go, in 4 days. Classic. But even with short notice, I've got a little cheat code. A powerful opening that allows you to learn it fast and use it to crush even strong opponents, often within 10 moves. I'm talking about the Colle system. Call is calling, and it's time to pick it up. So here, what I'm talking about is you build this pyramid of pawns right in the middle of the board. After that, you put your pieces in between like that, and the simple beauty of this system is that you play like that no matter what. And although initially it looks a little bit modest, but you have a very clear aggressive plan. And again, even strong players fall for it because it's really not easy to find the right way for black here. Now, in general, fundamentally, you're playing the Slav defense with reversed colors. And the Slav defense by black was played by Kasparov, Carlsen, and everyone. Therefore, when you use the same thing as white with an extra tempo, there cannot be anything wrong with that. And your main goal is to break open the center with e4 and to transition into the attack. Very often you prepare this move by either moving your rook right here to the e file or your queen right here. I'll show you both ways. I actually like them both and I alternate them between games. For example, if you go rook e1 and after your opponent plays whatever, let's say they go b6 trying to develop this bishop like this, and you play e4. And my big promise is, as soon as you play the move e4, your chances of winning this game are moving dramatically up. And by the way, the evaluation bar often does not recognize it, but in reality, it is very, very true. Now, the very first threat you've got here is, of course, playing e5. If your opponent plays any indifferent move, you're going to do that, and now you're winning one of these minor pieces. Therefore, black needs to react somehow. In most cases, they're going to take right here on e4, which is nice for you. Now this knight jumps forward, also opens up this diagonal for your bishop, which is also nice. And once again, your opponent needs to be extremely careful. If he plays any casual move, bishop b7, pawn takes d4, or anything of that sort, basically you win right away. Knight f6, you trade knights, and then sudden bishop g5 captures their queen. And I know you may be thinking, Igor, it's all good, but my opponents will simply trade knights. Okay, cool, you recapture, now you're attacking their knight, and once they played bishop b7, once again they're done. And that's why I've told you that this system works even against strong opponents, because black's moves are so natural. It's very hard to suspect that there's anything wrong with them. But now you've got bishop takes h7, the Greek gift sacrifice, followed by knight g5 and then queen h5, usually with a quick checkmate. If the king goes back anywhere, here or here, you throw the queen out of there and you checkmate them within a couple moves. If instead the king tries to boldly move forward, that's not going to work either. Because in this case, you've got knight takes f7, which is quite a spectacular move. It's just one move, but you've got 3 tactical motifs within it. It is a fork. It is also a discovered check from this bishop, and it is a double check because now both the knight and the bishop deliver a check, meaning the king will have to play, and then you'll at least win their queen. Probably black's best try is to come forward to g6, and then if you try to check them like this, they can at least try to block or maybe run away. But now h4 is pretty strong, attacking the king that way. If they try to stop that from happening, you've got another cool follow-up. Rook takes e6. You eliminate one of the defenders of the king, and now after pawn takes and queen d3, they don't have that pawn on f7 that could walk forward, possibly. Therefore, the king will have to play, but then within a couple moves, you get it done. I also want to show you another interesting idea where white used the same setup. It's just the Colle system. Once again, rook e1, queen c7. And what's cool about this is that even Vidit, one of India's young superstars, got defeated quickly by this idea. It just goes to show you how strong that is. In this case, black used a slightly different setup, but we couldn't care less. We just execute the same plan, e4. And after the trade here in the middle of the board, here's the interesting point. Usually in such positions, you gotta recapture with the bishop, because it's considered that you should not put your rook out there because your opponent will try to attack it and gain tempos. But in this case, that is actually a great move and a great idea overall. You wish to use the rook lift to the king side and to attack there. And after black plays knight f6 or whatever, you continue the rook lift, and basically black is already done. You already have, objectively speaking, a solid advantage, and finding correct defensive moves for black is very challenging. After virtually any move of black, you can go bishop g5 to take aim at this knight on f6, but the knight cannot move away, because if the knight moves, then you're going to pick up that pawn on h7, and you're winning the game right away. If he goes h6, it doesn't matter, you can trade, ruining their pawn structure, you can capture it here, you can go rook g4 check or queen d2 and bring the queen into the attack and finish the game very quickly, capture the pawn and then play queen h8, something like that. And as I've told you earlier, there is also the second plan I want to show you as well, and then you can decide which one you like better, or I prefer to use both of them. It is to play queen e2. Instead of bringing the rook into play right here, you can bring the queen. But the idea is still the same. You want to support the central break. And after black plays whatever, usually they'll try to develop their bishop. You then play this move pawn e4. And now black will, in most cases, take on e4. But again, in all of these variations, as soon as you advance the central pawn, your opponent is already in big trouble. By the way, an interesting point here is that if your opponent tries to take on d4, instead of automatically recapturing, you can play this in between strong move pawn e5, threatening the knight and therefore forcing it somewhere back. And once the knight moves, you then recapture, but now you ensure that you've got this central dominance. And now he's got a very cramped position. All these pieces cannot get out. You have still a nice attack, your two bishops pointing there, and in the middle game you will still develop your attack. Usually your opponent will try to prevent this from happening and will take right here on e4, but that allows you to advance your knight and to open this diagonal for your bishop. Now again, there are two very common ways for your opponent to lose the game on the spot. One of them is to trade on e4, and then you recapture with a double attack. You threaten checkmate, as well as this knight on c6, and your opponent is going to lose something. The other way leads to a very similar outcome if instead black takes here on d4, expecting you to recapture, but you once again kind of force the previous variation on them. You trade knights, bring queen to e4, and once again you threaten checkmate, and the material on the queen side, the knight, the rook, you're going to win something just as well. That is the upside of bringing your queen early into your attack. It certainly solidifies and reinforces the power of this attack. Now finally, how about black playing bishop b7, the correct move? Right, not taking on e4 at all, because then it only helps you to bring your queen forward. Here there is also a very strong move. You don't take anywhere. I mean, taking on c5 is actually fine. You create a weak pawn, and that's nice. But you can be more aggressive. You can go knight g5. You bring one more knight into the attack, and that creates a threat to this pawn. Your idea now is to take on f6 and then take this pawn. So that's what you're going to do. If they do whatever, you take right here with check, then take this pawn and win the game quickly. Therefore, they cannot allow that to happen. If they try to kick this knight out, then there is another unpleasant surprise for your opponents. Instead of moving the knight back, you trade on f6. This is a check to their king. They have to recapture. Now they're still hoping for your knight to move, but you don't. You play queen e4, threatening checkmate. All right, they got to cover the diagonal. They got to play g6. Now they're still hoping for your knight to finally make a move. And you say, okay, if you want it so badly, let me move the knight. And you grab this pawn e6 with a fork, totally destroying their position. And now after queen takes g6, basically that is game over. The king is in check, but also your bishop supports the attack. They have to cover, but now queen h7. And even though it's not a checkmate yet, but it's pretty clear that since the king is such wide open, like it also needs to cover the bishop, and you're going to continue your attack and win the game pretty easily. Now queen g6 is a threat, continuing to attack the king, the bishop, everything. And I mean, whatever, bishop takes h6, and it's clear that black is going down. Now let me address a couple questions that you may have, or at least that is what students usually ask me about. One, how about black doing something with this pawn? If they push it forward, is there any issue? Not really, because you have this really nice cozy square c2, your bishop remains to be on the same diagonal, and nothing changes. Your plan will be the same, you'll still break open the center with e4 and attack. This only makes it better for you, really, because now your opponent does not threaten your center anymore, and therefore there is even no pressure onto your position, and you can execute your plan freely. All right, the next question, how about black capturing here on d4? What are you going to do? You will definitely recapture with your e-pawn, right? That helps you to open this diagonal for your bishop. You can once again thank your opponent. They added this diagonal for your bishop. Now the bishop can go out to g5. They also opened up this file for your rook or queen, which is also nice for you, and black achieved nothing, therefore that's only great for you. Here's another question, what if black tries to pin your knight like this? In that case, you'll simply chase this bishop away. And if they trade on f3, no problem, you just recapture, no bishop, no problem. If the bishop comes back, then after g4, you keep attacking the bishop, you keep pressuring it, and actually you turn this upside down. Instead of being an attacker, this bishop now becomes an object of your attack. You want to play h5 and simply capture it. If the bishop ever comes here, you can play f3, and therefore the bishop will be totally captured. If they try to provide that escape square, that's when your knight from e5 comes into play. You don't let the bishop escape, instead you trade off. Now they've got a bunch of weaknesses all around their king, and now bishop takes g6 is literally checkmate in one threat. Of course black can stop it, but their position is still bad. Also, your opponent can try to disrupt your plan by developing their bishop to this diagonal so that you cannot easily move your bishop to d3. And then indeed the situation changes slightly. You're still going to play this move, challenging their bishop, and after the trade, fundamentally you're going to keep playing the same moves anyway. You go knight d2, you castle, and you break open the center with e4. It's all the same. Now it's even easier for you to play this move pawn to e4 because your queen is already on the right place, supporting that advancement. Now e5 is coming. If they trade, good for you. The knight comes forward. The bishop is now open. You can develop it later. If they trade, we just get to a position that is slightly better for white. Nothing too special, but you've got a strong center. You've got the square for your knight. You've got the bishop. You have more space. You can put the rooks to central files. And overall, you have a nice position. By the way, if you want to know how to play such positions and increase your positional understanding overall so that you feel confident and you know what to do, I've got a free masterclass. You can check it out up there where I explain all that in greater details. And of course, if you have any questions about Colle or what you want me to cover in my next videos, let me know in comments below.